Last week we left off things at learning unit 5, but it was not conclusive, or we did not conclude it. We were left with the travel allowance segment. So as I promised you last week that we'll be focusing on that one today, along with learning unit 6, which is the taxable of your calculation of your taxable income. Okay. All right, let's conclude our segment for the travel allowance. All right. It's defined as an amount of money given to an employee to cover the business-related traveling expenses. If you do get a question with regards to how do you define your traveling allowance, as you guys are writing the multiple choice, make sure that you grasp an understanding on it, or you just know the definition of your heart. All right. So the taxable portion is determined by using the rules set out in the Act. We've got rules that we have to comply in order to calculate or determine the travel allowance calculation. Right. So that's particularly your Income Tax Act rules. So the travel allowance given to an employee to finance transport, okay, it is an allowance. It is a travel allowance given to an employee to finance transport, or a reimbursement given to an employee based on the actual business travel. But when an employee has used the travel allowance to pay for the traveling allowance, there will not be a fringe benefit. Okay. Remember the definition of the fringe benefit. It's a benefit in a form of anyhow except the payment in cash. Okay, so immediately when you see the cash on the travel allowance, then that means you're not going to have some what's called the fringe benefit. So where employees receive an allowance of more than what they spend on their traveling allowance, then the excess amount of the travel allowance will be taxed. Okay. So let's move on to how do you calculate the cost of the business traveling. We need two variables, which is your actual business kilometers traveled as well as the cost per kilometer traveled. Then we're going to break down those ones now. Just a moment. Right, let's have a look at the steps to be followed in order to calculate the cost of the business travel. Right. So step number 1, it says that the business kilometers traveled. In order to ascertain the distance a person traveled for the business, we must refer to the logbook. So there will always be something called the logbook that you need in order for you to actually calculate this. The logbook will give us the actual kilometers traveled during the year of assessment. Right. Remember, this is as per the employee travel, as and when the employee travels. So a logbook is used every time the employee travels in his or her car. Actually, I forgot to put the her part to record how far he traveled and the purpose of the trip. Okay, we need to know the purpose of the trip as well as, or pretty much as the employee is actually traveling. So traveling can only be for private or business purposes. So by when they say this, they mean that you can be given the kilometers traveled for private or for business purposes, but the total kilometers traveled will be, meaning that you're going to have 3 variables in order for you to calculate the travel allowance actually. So you're going to have the private kilometers and the business kilometers, and then if you combine the two, they're going to give you the total kilometers traveled, or you're going to have the total kilometers traveled and the private kilometers traveled. It means that you need to get yourself the business kilometers traveled. So you're going to be given 2 variables to determine one, basically. So you, at the end of the day, you need to resolve, or your results should end in getting 3 variables, which include your private, your business, as well as your total kilometers traveled. Okay. Therefore, if we supply you with the total kilometers traveled for the year of assessment, and we give you the private kilometers traveled for the same year, then the difference between the 2 values must be the business kilometers traveled. That's exactly what I've just explained now. So when you do the travel allowance, just be very careful that you need those 3 variables: total kilometers traveled, private kilometers traveled, along with your business kilometers traveled. So in most cases, actually you will always be given 2 to determine 1. But let's all be aware that an employee does not keep a logbook. He will not be entitled to claim any business travel expenditure, meaning that it is the responsibility of an employee to keep the logbook. Okay, so that the employee can be able to claim for the business travel expenditure. The entire travel allowance will therefore be fully taxable. Well, let's look at 2, the cost per kilometer. Now that we understand on how to calculate the business kilometers, we need to calculate how much it cost a person to run his vehicle for the year of assessment. We can make use of the actual expenses where the employee has kept the proof, or we can use of the tables. There's a table that is actually provided there in your book. I think just mention it under the notes summaries in here. So you're going to refer to the total. All of those costs per kilometers are given, like your fuel or your fixed and the other ones, they are actually given as it is. So the one that you just have to adjust is your cost per kilometer. Okay, where was I? Employees to keep proof of, okay, the total actual expenditure will be divided by the total kilometers traveled to give us the calculated cost per kilometer. So in order for you to get the cost per kilometer, you need the total actual expenditure to be divided by the total kilometers traveled, and then you get that. That's the most important one we highlighted for you. Okay, you will see that on the notes. Make sure that you understand on how you get your cost per kilometer travel. Right, so your actual cost cannot be calculated where the employee only knows the cost price of the vehicle. Let's look at the actual cost, which include your fuel, your licensing, and this is the actual cost I'm referring to now. I'm talking about the cost of the vehicle. You're looking at your fuel, licensing, insurance fees, the maintenance cost of the wear and tear. As I've explained before, the wear and tear is basically your depreciation. And then how you calculate the wear and tear, you divide the cost price, including the VAT, with a maximum number of years, which is 7. It cannot go more than that unless if it's below 7 years. The limit is 7 years, and that's how you get your wear and tear. Okay, that's why I've highlighted that in red so that you'll be able to see it. Okay, let's look at the limit in terms of your cost price is 595,000, where the cost price of the vehicle is more than 595. So the limit will always be 595,000 rand. Okay, it will also be used as a cost price and not the actual price. So the actual cost price of the motor vehicle. Looking at the interest paid where the vehicle is financed, this interest is limited to an amount which could have been incurred in the original, that being 595. Okay. If you're leasing the payments where the taxpayer leases the vehicle, it's possible as well. Or when an employee does not keep proof of his actual expenditure on traveling, he can make use of the tables to calculate the total cost per kilometers. Right. So there's 2 ways of getting your total cost per kilometers. The first one is your total actual expenditure divided by the total kilometers traveled. It will give you that. Or the second option will be we have to go through to the table. Let me have a look at that table quickly for you, just to check on how does it look. Okay, this is the table. Right, it says when an employee does not keep proof of his actual expenditure on traveling, he can make use of the tables to calculate the cost, the total cost per kilometers. So I think it's on page somewhere 22. Let me look at the page number. It's on page 22 when you do the step 2 for the cost per kilometer calculation. Make sure you note that one down. I'm going to go back to the notes again now. All right, I've noted this one down here. It says NB tables on page 22, the guide. But let's look at on how to calculate dim cost per kilometer using the employee owned vehicle. The first would be you select the correct line on the tables to use according to the vehicle cost price, including the VAT. The second part will be to calculate the fixed cost per kilometer, which is the fixed cost divided by the total kilometers traveled. The third one is you convert the kilometers cents. Okay. And the fourth one is you add the fixed cost calculated, the fuel cost calculated, as well as your maintenance cost. Okay, so this is actually in relation, or they are referencing to that table that I just showed you on page 22. So they give you the process on how to calculate those costs per kilometers. The first one being your fixed cost, and the second one being the first one will be, okay, you just consult with your table, and then you calculate your fixed cost per kilometers, and then you convert the rand into the cents, all right? Meaning that after you add up your fuel cost and your maintenance cost along with your fixed cost, you multiply that by 100 cents. Then it's going to give you, or it's going to be converted into cents, right? So the fifth one, you convert your cents Kilometers amount to the rent, which is the total cost cents per kilometer. But I know it might be looking a little bit confusing. I think with this one, for you to defeat it, you just have to do questions, more and more questions in reference to the table, and then I think the conclusion will be fair and equal towards your understanding. Okay, so you calculate your total business cost. You now take the rent amount, calculate in step 2, and times that by the business kilometers is calculated in step 1, right? And your kilometers per rent, or your rent per kilometers multiplied by business kilometers, you get your business value as per step 4, and then you calculate the amount that needs to be included in the taxable income calculations on the travel allowance received less your business value. Right, taxable portion, where taxpayers kept the record of their actual expenses. Okay, so it's actually the same thing. They're just giving you the difference in terms of if the taxpayer has kept the proof, and if he or she has not kept their proof. So where the taxpayer has kept record of the actual expense, you just calculate both the actual cost per kilometers as well as the deemed cost per kilometers, and the highest of the two will be used in the travel allowance calculation as per step 3 above. So there are two processes that has to be followed depending on if the taxpayer has kept the record or the taxpayer has not kept the record. So you must just be careful of that. And again, I'd like to emphasize that you cannot have an exam without this kind of a travel allowance calculation. I think that's the reason why I chose to do it with you specifically, not included in the other stuff under your Learning Unit 5. Is there any questions? Any questions? Kulufelo? Z2?
Question? No
Yes.
question. I'm
No
fine.
question.
Yeah.
Z2?
Yes.
Lesejo?
I don't have any questions, Sam.
No questions.
Yes.
Okay, Z2 doesn't have any questions, but you understand. Did you get the clarity with regards to your travel allowance?
Yes,
okay.
I think I understand.
Did you guys manage to tackle that part on your own?
Yes, I managed to get it, I think, correctly last time when I wrote it on the assignment.
Okay, not a problem. So, but this is what we're going to do now. We're going to have a piece of a question there. And then since you guys have done your part, it means that you're going to help me. I developed this out of your content. I think it's in one of your question banks at the end of the study unit. Okay, so you can all see it. It's a travel allowance question. Right, it says that I will receive a monthly travel allowance of 3,800 Rand per month, and the cost of my vehicle, including that, amounts to 172,500. I expect that I will travel 15,400 kilometers for the business purposes, and a total of 26,500 kilometers for the 2021 year of assessment. I expect my actual cost for the 12 months to be as follows. My fuel rent will be 12,000 Rand, insurance premium and license fees is 4,200, maintenance of 3,450, the use of the motor vehicle instead of the travel allowance. What would the taxable value of the fringe benefit be if my employer gives me the use of the motor vehicle instead of the travel allowance? My employer purchased the company car on the 1st of March, and the cost of the car is 195,000 Rands, and the amount includes VAT and maintenance plan. My employer pays all the operating expenses, and the vehicle is not used for business purposes. Right. We need to explain the term called the fringe benefit is part of your required. If one of your family members is looking for an understanding with regards to your fringe benefit, you have to be in a state or a situation where you have to explain that through to your family member. And then you need to calculate the travel allowance for the 2021 year of assessment. Okay. Right, moving further afield, moving on there. Where do you start when you approach this kind of a question? Somebody quickly give me what is it, the definition of your fringe benefit? Are you guys there?
Yes, we're here.
Right, can somebody help me with a definition? Okay, somebody Who
I think the fringe benefit is the difference between what I gave you and what you have used. The difference is the fringe benefit.
Okay, sorry, I think you declared the issue that you've got a network problem there. Can you start all over, please? I didn't get that part, sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was saying that I think the fringe benefit is the difference between what the employer has given you and what you have used for the year of assessment.
Okay, thank you very much for the try. Anyone would like to add or reduce?
I think the fringe benefit is what the employer actually offers you in addition to what your salary might be. You know, it fringe benefits basically means it might mean your bonuses or whatever, something that is just a bonus on top of what you are already receiving, which is your salary.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kulufelo. Lesego, do you want to take over? Or Zetu? All right, the definition for the fringe benefit is quite easy. All you just need to know is it's a benefit from your employer in a form of anyhow than cash, all right? Meaning that you benefit in a different way than benefiting in cash. That's what's called the fringe benefit, okay? So you just have to be careful on your multiple choice question. It might be there. You just need to be extremely careful when it comes to that part, okay? Thank you so much for your participation. Let's have a look at on how you have to calculate your travel allowance. How would you calculate your travel allowance? What's your underlying principles in understanding the determination of your travel allowance?
Is basically going back to the steps.
Okay, do you mind leading me through that steps?
I think because they already given us an amount of 8,000 per month, I then have to determine how long have they traveled. Let me see. Expected business travel. I'd have to find out how much I'd have to calculate how much the business travels are.
Okay.
Then I'd have to calculate the cost of each kilometer.
Okay, no problem. Let me do this. Okay, lead me the way. You can see that I'm typing here. All right, let's have a look at this. You will receive a monthly travel allowance of 3,800 rand per month, meaning that you have to calculate the entire amount for the travel allowance per month for 12 months, right? And the cost of the vehicle, okay, we'll see that one later on. Then you are expected that, can you see this part here? I'm expected that I will travel 15,400 kilometers for the business purposes and a total of 26,500 for the 2021 year of assessment. You remember when I told you that you need 3 variable cost in here? So you'd always be given 2. So that means that you need to determine the rest, or the other one remaining. So in this instance, if you can look at this, we've got what's called the business travel, right? Let me rather say business kilometers. Which is 15,400 rand. And then I've got my total kilometers, right? My total kilometers amounts to 26,500 rand. It will be like this. And then you're going to, out of the difference in between these two, it means that you're going to get what's called a private kilometers.
Yes.
That's what you're looking for, right? So 26,500 minus 15,400 rand. Please give me the difference. I don't have my calculator close by. It's 11,100 rand. Okay, this is what we got, right? It means that we didn't have this. This is what we are looking for, right? We got the travel allowance now. Sorry, the private kilometers. Then let's have a look at what's called the travel allowance. Travel allowance, we are given, I think it's an amount of 3.6 or 3.8. Okay. Okay, it's 3.8. So you're just going to say 3.8 multiplied by 12. Okay. So how much? Somebody help me quickly. How much is 3.8 multiplied by 12?
45,600.
Is it 44?
5,600.
I'm struggling to hear you, but I hope you said 44,600.
It's 45,600.
45,600 rand. Okay. Okay. Who wants to help me on how to go further with this? Okay. So the next step will be we calculating the deemed cost. We need to look at which one is greater between the deemed cost and the actual cost. Okay. Let me do this. Just a moment. So how do you calculate your deemed cost? How do you calculate your deemed cost? Or how do you calculate your travel allowance? Sorry, your actual cost.
I'm just going to say we need to use the table so that we calculate the deemed cost.
We do need to use the table to calculate the deemed cost. Okay. Sorry, who is this? Thank you very much. It's quite a relief.
It's Kulufelo.
Okay, Colvelo. Okay, let's go ahead, my dear. What do we do? Colvelo.
Need to determine our fixed cost, but first we need to know how much is the vehicle so we can check on our table. Okay. And then we can use the fixed cost that's provided on the table as well as the I think as well as the fuel cost if I'm yes, I think so. I'm not sure.
Okay. That sounds great. All right, let's go to the table quickly. As Kulufelo said that we have to go to the table. I hope everyone is actually checking out the table or listening. All right, let's have a look at, it's on page 22, right?
It's on page 22, 23.
Yeah, 22, 23, right? Kulufelo, I just want you to lead me via the table, it's fine.
How much the vehicle is, and I'll check for you.
How much is the vehicle cost, including the VAT there? Oh, you want me to give you that figure?
Yes, okay, because I can't scroll up and down on your side.
I'm going to give you that. Right, it's 172,500.
Okay, so it's going to fall on the second line, which is there the fixed cost is 55,894.
Okay, fixed cost will be 55,800. Are you on the table? I'm just going to write for you.
Yes, yes, I'm on the table.
Okay, no problem. So the fixed cost is how much?
55,894.
Yes.
And then the fuel cost per kilometer is 118.1.
Fuel cost per kilo?
Yeah.
It's how much?
118.1.
118.1.
1, yes.
Okay, and what else?
And then maintenance cost is 46.8.
6.8.
Yeah.
Okay, 46.8. All right. How do you deal with your fixed cost? Are you going to put it as it is? But I think it requires an adjustment, if I'm not mistaken.
It requires an adjustment, you're correct. I think we would have to say 47. I think so. I'm not sure.
Okay, where do you get the 47, Kuru?
I rounded it off.
You round it off?
Yeah.
Okay, which figure are we rounding it off?
The 46.8.
I think that's what I'm getting lost. I'm not sure whether I do understand you there. Okay, you round it off from how? Okay, you round it off from where?
So instead of saying 46.8, I would write 47. So I don't have the 46.8, but I'd write 47.
Oh, you mean with the maintenance?
Yes.
Or like this?
Yes.
Okay. No, that's okay. I'm just saying the calculation of the fixed cost because we can't take the entire amount of 55,894. Okay, if you can see where I'm making the adjustments in terms of the question, what I'm trying to say is I can't have this figure is way too big. It's too heavy for the fuel cost, the maintenance cost. I can't put 55,894 here. It means that it's per cost. It's not the total fixed. Okay, let me say fixed per cost. I'm just going to put it like that, which is why you can't say 55,894 won't be per cost.
Okay, you're right there. You're correct.
Yes. Okay, this is how you calculate your fixed cost. You take the fixed cost, the total fixed cost amount, and then you divide it by the total kilometers traveled. Does it make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I'm seeing it on the instructions on the steps here.
Okay, following the steps, you just do it that way. So this is what you're gonna do. My fixed cost is 55,894. Then you divide it by, is it 26,800? Let me just have a look at it.
Yes, it's 20. It's yeah, I think it's 26,800.
Okay. So how much is 55,894 divided by 26,800 rand? Actually, we're trying to convert to this into the fixed total fixed per cost or fixed amount per cost, which is 55,894, and then you divide this by 26,800. So it's 2.08 or 09. So basically, you can just say 2.9 or 10, but your conversion will be like this, and then you multiply this by 100. So you should have 208.55. Let me see. So your answer should be like this here after your adjustment. 208.55. That's your fixed cost per kilometer. Right, let's do the calculations on the actual cost. Remember, we need to actually use the greater of the two. We're calculating these two items, actual cost as well as your deemed cost. So, Kulofelo, what do we do on the actual cost? Right, the items that are going in here will be your depreciation, maintenance, and I think your fuel, if I'm not mistaken. We have insurance. We'll just have to look at that one if it's given. So your insurance, yes, is there, including your license fees. So you just say insurance and my license fees. Right. How do you calculate your depreciation? Let's start there. How much is the depreciation? Guys, how much is the depreciation? Okay, you're going to look at what's called the cost of the vehicle. Let's have a look at how much is the cost. The cost is an amount of 172,500 rand, and then this is how you do that. Your depreciation will be calculated as 172. Is it 500? Just a moment for me. Okay, yeah, it's 172,500 rand. Remember, our depreciation is limited to 7 years. Automatically, you have to know that. So you'd say 172 divided by 7 years, and then you get your the depreciation, or what's called the wear and tear. You see, it's 172,500, and then you divide this by 7 years. Your wear and tear would be an amount of 24643. Okay, I round it off. 24643. Okay. Then the maintenance, I think it's given there in the question. Let's see the maintenance part. Your maintenance would be. Are you guys looking at the question?
Can I please ask where the question is? Is it on which page is the question on?
Oh, here is the question. It's on your. It's actually on your screen.
Okay. Okay.
Do you see where it says the travel allowance question?
Yes, I can see it.
That's your question.
Okay.
Well, that's the question we are dealing with. All right, let's look at the other costs that are given in there. I expect my actual cost for the 12 months to be as follows. Fuel is 12,000 rand. Insurance premium and license fees is 4,200. And maintenance is 3,450. Let me just put them in. Right. If you are looking at the question, please give me the figures because I'm going to scroll down where I write my solution. Right. Fuel is 12,000. Okay, my fuel is 12,000. And maintenance, I think insurance and license fees about 4,200 rand. Let me just verify the figures are fine. It's 4,200 and maintenance is 3,450. Okay. Maintenance is 3,450. Is there fuel? 3,450. Let's see if we've got a fuel. All right. Some of the costs are given. You just do what's called the copy and paste. You just take them as it is, and then you put them there as they are. Okay. Of course, some of them would be they would require you to make an adjustment on things like your depreciation and the fixed cost up there. And then the rest, you just have to go to the table and put the amounts as they are. Okay, I don't see any amount concerning the fuel. Let's have a look at just a moment. But are you getting the clarity on this one? Are you getting somewhere?
Yeah, we can see there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
The light at the end of the tunnel, okay. No, that's fine. Then let's get the total cost in terms of the deemed. How much is the total cost for the deemed? Cost for the deemed would be, just a moment, I'm still adding up. So cost per deemed would be 208.55, then you plus 118.1, and then you plus your 46.
Maintenance.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, and then we add the maintenance also.
And then we add the maintenance also, that's correct. And you get your total here. The total will be 373.45. 373.45. And let's look at the total cost for the actual. So total cost for the actual would be total for the actual cost will be 24. Just a moment, it's 24,643 plus 3,450 plus 12,000 rand plus 4,200 rand. Okay, and then you've got a total of 44,293. Okay, these are your totals. And then anybody, what do you think we do from here? What do you think we can do here? Then we need to get the actual cost per kilometer, and calculating of your actual cost per kilometer, you take the total, which is 44,293. You divide it by the total kilometers traveled, and then you get your actual kilometers, actual cost per kilometer, basically. So this is what you do. You would say my actual cost per kilometer. You would say 44,293 divided by the total kilometers traveled. You remember the 26,500 rand? You guys remember that?
Yeah, I remember it.
Okay, and this is what you do. You would say 44,293 divided by 26,500, and then you get 1.67, and then you multiply this by 100. It's 167.14. Okay, that's your total here. 167.14. So that's your total deemed cost is 373.45, and then your actual cost per kilometers is 167.14. So the question is, we have to use the greater one. So which one is your greater here? Between the deemed cost as well as the actual cost, which one is your greater?
It's the deemed cost, it's greater.
The deemed cost is actually the greatest one. 37. Let me see how much is it's 373.45. All right. So students that were writing the written exam, they would just say my deemed cost greatest. Therefore, it has to be used. It has to be used. And put the amount, you'd say 373.45. That's your deemed. You say deemed. So it will be like 373.45, and then you just disclose it as it is. Is it hard to crack? Is it that hard?
No, I don't think it's hard. I think it just needs practice.
It just needs practice, yeah. The more you practice is the more you're going to get confident, is the more you're going to do the right things. So let's look at if we've got the taxable income to be calculated. Okay, taxable income to be calculated, you say my taxable income to be calculated. It will be, then you will say travel allowance. What do you do with the travel allowance? You remember the travel allowance that you received on a monthly basis. You remember that part, 3.8, and then you multiply that by 12. So you specifically say, sorry, I don't know, I think my laptop is freezing. Please bear with me. Oh. All right, but you would say 3,800 rand, and you multiply that by 12. Okay. And then after multiplying that by 12, you're going to have the business, you're going to less it or deduct it from your travel allowance. So the business travel allowance, basically you would say 3,000. Let me show you quickly. Say 3,800, and then you multiply this by 12. I'm not sure. Somebody quickly help me with the calculator there. Konja, how much did we get?
It's 45,600.
45,600 rand. 45,000. Then we're going to have the business travel allowance. Travel allowance with an amount of how much? How much will be the business travel allowance? How much is the business kilometers? How much is the business kilometers? It's 15,400 rand. You remember that? 15,400 rand. And then you multiply it by the greater between the deemed and the actual cost. And the greater is 373.45. And then you get how much? Let's have a look at that. Okay, 15,400 rand. And then you multiply this by 373.5. And then, sorry, 373.5.
Do you get 5751130?
Okay, let's see. Sorry, 15,400 multiplied by 373.45. Okay, I've got this, and then you have to divide this by 100. So you're gonna have 57511.3. Did you get that?
Yes, I got that.
Okay. Let's see now. You're going to have. Can you see my workings, guys?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So since you can see that the business travel allowance is greater than the actual travel allowance, it means that there is no, you're going to end up with a nil. So there is no taxable benefit in here because the business travel allowance is greater than this. So you can have what's called the nil. And you'd say no taxable benefit. No taxable one. You just say no taxable benefit. And then you're done with it. You skipped your marks. All right. There's no coincidence that they can ask you to calculate the travel allowance and then they will just say 12 marks. So if you don't know where to start, you're going to have a problem, because the best way is to know how to approach your question. If you don't know how to approach your question, you're going to have a problem, and that will result in you to getting the wrong amount, and then you're not going to make it. Okay. So some of the questions are going to come as big as you cannot expect, and they're going to surprise you. But if you don't know the approach, it means that you're not going to get anywhere with it. So I think I've interrupted you, as you say.
Yes, I wanted to say you are so right, because like questions can come in a different way.
Yes.
And I think if I'm gonna be following the steps, sometimes I do get confused as to how do I tackle the question. I don't know if it's possible, if maybe I can get a document of your question so that I can use the question that you've asked us to actually practice and then try to answer the question on my own without looking at this recording.
Okay, it's just that I don't have my previous exam. I'll check if I do have my own previous exam papers. But what I'll do is I'll specifically pick the questions with regards to travel allowance, and then I can send through to everybody, everyone who's actually in here, and then you can do it on your own. Or else you can do it on your study guide. You've got a lot of question banks at the end of your study guide, and then you can just specifically pick your travel allowance, and then you do that without looking at the solution. The best part about it is, unless if you do it, Robert, it's going to benefit you because you do it, and then you see where you made the flops, and then you rectify the errors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just do a lot of that. You'll let me know next week if you're comfortable with it or whether the challenges that we came through, and then we'll just do them together.
Thank you.
Makes sense. Right. Any questions? We're going to fall on to the second part of the travel allowance, and we'll finalize things with our taxable income. Right. They should be, at least you should have a light on this. On this next question, it says, Gerald received a travel allowance of 20,000 rand a month for the full year of assessment. He traveled a total of 96,000 kilometers for the full year, 42,000 of which were private, according to his logbook. Remember, we've got two variables in here. It means that we're looking for one. If we've got the total travels as well as the private kilometers travels, it means that we're looking for the business part. Okay, we're going to calculate that. The purchase price of the car was 575, including the VAT on the 1st of March 2017. The proof of the following expenses were provided: finance charges for 1,000, fuel cost 120, license fees, and maintenance cost. Remember, the cost of the vehicle, including the VAT, should be limited to an amount of 5,900. Don't forget that. Any amount greater than that, you just say it's limited to 595, and then you use 595 as it is. Okay. The required, let's calculate the travel allowance here.
Can I ask you, when you went away, I actually thought you said that we must do it on our own. So I tried to do it. I am not finished yet, but can I just tell you what I did, and then you can tell me if I did incorrectly or not?
I would appreciate that. I would really and truly appreciate that. Right.
Okay. So I wrote down the the first step is I wanted to determine the business kilometers traveled.
Okay, business kilometers traveled. I'm gonna ask you to be a bit slowly if you see my writing.
Okay.
Kilometers traveled. Okay.
And then and then underneath I said total kilometers traveled. It said it's 96,000, right?
Okay, just a moment. Come on. Okay, you had total kilometers traveled. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, total kilometers travel is 96,000.
Total kilometers, yes.
And then I said minus private kilometers travel, which is 42,000.
Okay, private kilometers travel. Okay, what is it? Travel kilometers. Let's do this. Sorry. Okay. How much is the total?
The total for private kilometers is 42,000, and then if I minus them from each other, it's 54,000.
Okay. I think the private one is 42, not the total. Am I correct?
Yes, the 42, yes.
Okay, no problem. So if you minus all of them, you get the difference of how much?
54,000.
Okay, it's 54,000 rand. Okay, thank you so much for that. So that's your total kilometers, right?
Yeah,
Sorry, that's your business kilometers basically.
yeah.
Okay, the first part is done and it has been done quite well. Okay, what's the second part?
The second part, I had to then calculate the deemed cost.
Okay, my deemed or your deemed. Let's see. Right. Your deemed Kulu.
So I then had to look at the value of the car, which is 575,000 on the table, so that
Okay.
I can get my fixed and fuel cost and also maintenance.
How much was your fixed?
My fixed was 169,552.
552.
And then the fuel one is 175.1.
175.1.
Yeah, and then the maintenance was 96.6.
Okay. It's 96.6.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then from here, I think I got confused, but then I moved to say fixed cost divide by total kilometers traveled.
Okay. Which is how much is your total kilometers traveled?
96,000.
96,000 rand. You got it quite correct. I'm happy about that. I'm so impressed about that. And then what else?
And then I got 1.76, and then I multiplied it by 100, and then I got 176.61. So that's where I left off before you came back.
Okay. And let me tell you what, you did exceptionally well. I'm so, because the way you've grasped your principle, it means that whenever you are faced up with this kind of questions, your basics will be covered. You understand? So it's going to be easier for you to tackle the part called the deemed cost. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for attempting that. But do you have an idea as to how can you calculate your actual cost? Can you attempt it maybe?
Can I not please try? Can I please not try?
Not a problem. Simpiwe, you said you are in an uncomfortable situation. Lesejo, do you want to help us, please? Lesejo? Zetu? Bwangeka? Okay, Noise Fahan, I can help you on that one. Let's see. Okay, this is how you're going to calculate your actual cost. You look at what's called the wear and tear, right? So the wear and tear will be the cost of the vehicle. I think at this point is about, let me go back to the question. The cost is 575, right? So meaning that is going to be 575. You divide that by 575,000. You divide that by 7 years. 7 years, remember, is the maximum limit if you're not given any years in terms of the depreciation. So you would basically say, I just want to calculate that quickly, just a moment. It's 575,000. You divide that by 7 years, and then you get, wait a moment, I think I made a mistake. 575,123, and then you divide that by 7. You've got an amount of 82143. 82143. Okay. Then let's have a look at what else in regards to the information is given in here. You've got finance charges. It's 41,000. Can somebody call me the amounts there on your side? Finance charges. Finance charges with an amount of 41,000. Fuel, how much is fuel? And how much is maintenance? And the insurance. Okay, let's see. All right, fuel is 120 and license is 2.5. Fuel is 120. Wait, how much is the fuel? I think I got it. 120,000. Are you guys there?
We are here.
Okay, then let's have a look at the insurance part. Where am I now? Okay, let's have a look at, I think we've got the insurance and license. Okay, insurance and license, and then we're going to look at the maintenance. Maintenance is 12,000 and 2.5. Maintenance is 12,000. Maintenance is 12,000 rand. Right, you're going to add them together. So you're going to add them together and get your total. I'll give it to you now. Okay, the first one it's 82143 plus 41,000, and then you plus it 12,000. So we've got double 12,000. Okay, my total gives me an amount of 149,643.
Yeah, that's the same as me. Yeah.
Total is 149,643. Okay. How much is the total deemed? How much is the total deemed? Okay, now fine, let's help you. Let me help you with the total deemed. Going to be, my total deemed is 176.61, and then you plus it with 175.1, and then you plus it with 96.6. So
Yeah.
44831.
Yeah.
448.31, right? Okay, and then what do we do? Sorry. We need to get to actual cost per kilometer. Okay, after the totals, you're going to have, hey, my laptop. Sorry, it's quite freezing now, I don't know. What could, I think is the network, just a moment. All right, but your actual cost per kilometers is going to be 149,643, and then you divide that by the total kilometers. Total is, how much is the total kilometers?
So kilometers, it's 96,000.
Actual cost per kilometer, it would be 149,643. You divided by, you said 96,000, right?
And 96,000.
Okay, and then how much are you getting there? You multiply this by 100.
Wait. Multiply by 100. I'm getting 155.87.
Okay, so you're getting 155.878.
0.878.
So we're going to round it off to make it 888. Right, so
Yeah.
again, greatest would be the deem, right? Because we've got 448.31. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to calculate what's called the taxable. Okay, so you're going to do what's called taxable calculation. Okay. Should I call it a gain or should I say taxable calculation? Say claim where you get your. Right, how do you calculate that? How do you calculate this? Can we go back and see what we did? Okay, taxable benefit. It's called the taxable benefit calculation. What do? Travel allowance. You remember the travel allowance that was given? Multiply by that month. So basically, you would do it that way. You would say, just a moment. Okay, say taxable calculation. Okay, let me say calc. And you would say your travel allowance. How much was the amount for the travel allowance? Kulufelo?
As 20,000 per month.
20,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
And you just say 20,000 and you multiply that by 12. How much is it per year? Is it 140,000? Or
240,000, yeah, it's 240,000.
Then we're gonna have a business. About so how much is the business kilometers traveled?
It's 54,000.
Say 54,000, and then you multiply by how much is the greatest in between?
It's the 448, I think. I'm not sure, but it's the deemed cost 448 something.
Okay, 448. The deemed is 448. But where did I calculate that thing? Because it seems like
Go down just a little bit.
Okay. Oh, it's
yeah, there is.
Okay, 448.31. Did you get the total there?
The total is 24208.
08.
740.
Okay, and then let's divide this by 100. How much is the amount?
Divide by 100 equals to 24208.7.4.
I'm gonna ask you to give me that again.
24208.7.4.
So can you see that the business travel is actually greater than the travel allowance?
Yeah.
There's no taxable benefit. Fine. So you just say no taxable benefit. Well, I'm gonna have to relook at this because I think there's something that we're not doing right with regards to the deemed cost, because I feel like we haven't converted that into cents, but that's fine. We'll deal with it. It's not that much of a big deal. But anyway, is there anyone who needs clarity on this? Is everybody happy? Right, our next segment is the calculations of the taxable income. So it's always important to know the framework with regards to the calculations of your taxable income. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed or you have realized that the entire things that we have did so far, they fall under your taxable income calculations. If you look at the framework itself, it means that whatever that we did, it will fit in or along some of the steps that you see under your frameworks. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but I'm sure you would agree with me that it's going to form part and parcel of your calculations of taxable income calculations. All right, are you still there? Just somebody say yes, just to ensure that we are actually doing the...
Yes.
Thank you so much. But taxable income framework, looking at that, it's one of those that the framework is actually under your study guide, where you just have to look at it and you'll be able to see what the framework looks like. So what does it entail? But the first step in calculating your taxable income is establishing your gross income. Remember, the first part when you do your calculations of the taxable income is your gross income, and then followed by your exempt. So the first part will be your gross income, which would include the different types of income that you may be classified as gross income, such as your salaries, your commission, your bonus, and investment income, including your rentals, interest, and the dividends, including your fringe benefit as well. All income that meets the requirements in terms of the definition of the gross income, they are included as discussed in the Learning Unit 3. You can remember that we have covered that. To refresh your memory, there must be a resident, there must be amount in cash or otherwise would reflect your fringe benefit basically. In 12 months period, which is the year or the period of assessment, receive you accrued to, and excluding the receipts or the accruals of the capital nature, including that of a benefit. Okay, so that of the fringe benefit. So if you want to know more about your gross income, you just need to refresh yourself by studying your Learning Unit 3, and you'll be able to determine which ones are your gross incomes and which ones are your exempt, and which ones do you actually not qualify. It further says that if all of the above is present, the amount will be included in the gross income in your taxable income calculations. Looking at the fringe benefit, which is referred to as a non-cash benefit granted to an employee by the employers, in addition to their normal wages or salaries, but does not constitute the cash payment to be made. And this fringe benefit must be converted into the cash equivalent amount, and the taxable benefit should be included in the employee's taxable income calculations. All right, taxable benefit conversion amount, what they're talking about is, you remember when we are calculating the travel allowance there, we actually did, what is it? The motive behind the calculations, the purpose was to get to what's called the taxable benefit, which is why you did your deemed and your actual, and then you later could have with the entire amount for your travel allowance, and then you minus that by the business kilometer travel amount, and then you get, if there's a difference in between the two, that's where you get your taxable benefit calculations on that. But your next step is to exclude your any gross income for which the Act provide as an exempt, as we discussed in Unit 3 as well. You remember the interest that we spoke about that has the limitations and stuff like that, things like your dividends and some of the other exempt. They're going to form part of your second part when you do your taxable income calculation. So it's basically your gross income. Every gross amount will be included in there, including your fringe benefit. And then you're going to look at which one out of the gross does qualify as my exempt. And then you put that underneath, and they're going to be under your exempt. Meaning that you don't qualify to be taxed out of that, right? So remember, the income that can only be exempt if it was included in the gross income. So meaning that you cannot just take any other income from somewhere else and include it in there. It has to be included in your gross income first before it can be exempt. And then in your tax calculations, you first need to include the gross income and then include the exempt income under the exempt part. As I said, that's actually your second part. Okay, let's see now. We're moving to the second part. Learning Unit 3, we discussed the following exempts: South African interest paid for South African residents, and the dividends, including the foreigns. And the next step is to make the general deduction formulas in terms of the general deduction formula, which we were discussed in the Learning Unit 4. I've emphasized much that it's just that we deal with tax perspective, but at the end of the day, it's more in relation to your accounting. In accounting, you've got what's your incomes, and then you deduct what's called your expenses. In tax, the expenses are called the deductions as per the Act. So pretty much the same process that we follow in the accounting. It's actually exactly the same way as in your tax. Right, and then let's get back to the requirements of the general deduction formula. I'm still going to say that it's a refresher with you if you've been with me from the beginning. You need to know this. I'm going to say that, and don't say I didn't say that, because you will remember me when you're writing your exam. It can come up as part of your definition and they can mismatch, but if you don't know it as part of your multiple choice question, then you will have a problem. It's important to still emphasize that you have to read that part. So all of the above requirements must be present for an amount can be deducted in this learning unit, right? They must be carrying on a trade with an expenditure and losses that are actually incurred and in the production of income, which is of a non-capital nature, and they must be partially or fully expended for the purpose of trade. None other than anything else except for the purpose of trade. Let me say that as the requirement to be, must be present, then we're going to have salary taxpayers that qualify for certain deductions of expenses that they must pay in the deductions reduce the taxable income, These amount must be deducted in specific order. Basically, what they're saying is you can't just decide to say, I'm putting my donation first as part of my deduction. It doesn't work that way. You work with how the standard in terms of the framework allows you to do things. Okay, you don't just decide and say, I'm taking this there because I feel like that. No, it's not part of the compliance. It's going to make you a failure. Right, let's go further afield there. With the salaries, taxpayer may claim very few deductions, which include the following: your pension fund, your retirement and annuity fund, including your provident fund contributions, and then your donation to the PBO is a public benefit organization. I think we're gonna discuss that segment when we go further down. But my 6.4 pension fund, retirement fund, provident fund contributions to retirements are deductible for the income tax purposes, but the deductions are actually prohibited to a certain limit, or the deductions are actually just limited. Let's look on how do they go about the deductions here. Any contribution paid by an employer are taxed as a fringe benefit and will be included as part of the total contributions made to funds. Retirement fund, including your pension, retirement and annuity funds, and provident, determining the taxable income of the nature or person in respect of any year of assessment. And this is how it goes. The contributions that may be claimed as the deductions in the current year of assessment are limited to the lesser of 350,000 rand, or 27.5% of the higher of the remunerations or taxable income of that person before including any taxable capital gain. At this point in time, we don't know anything about the taxable gain, but I think it's one of the last study unit. We'll see that when we cross the bridge. Okay, when the remuneration is referred to as the remunerations for the employee tax purpose, but excluding the retirement, lump sum, and severance benefits. Remunerations include your salaries, fees, bonus, gratuity, pension, leave payouts, voluntary awards, commission, overtime payments received from an employer, and specifically include the following: retirement fund contributions, provident fund, pensions, and the retirement annuity. But it says that we have to calculate the percentage limit of 27.5 of the greatest of the remunerations or taxable income. So either of the two is going to be given there, but basically you have to calculate your taxable income, and you are going to be given what's called the remunerations in there. So you're going to use the greater in between your remuneration as well as your taxable income. So the question might come and say, this is your remuneration amount. However, you still have to calculate your taxable income as per the framework. You remember the part of your income, and then you less your, you less your exempt, you take your exempt into account, and then you have your taxable income. You're going to compare how much you get as a taxable income with the remuneration amount, and then you're going to take the greater in between the two, and then you multiply that by 27.5%. Make sense? It might look complicated in terms of the theory, but when we do questions, you will see on how easy it is. Let's have a look at step 2. Total contributions are deducted when limited to the lesser of the percentage limit, or 350,000 rand, taxable income excluding the CGT, which is ranging at 48 to 80% of the travel allowance received from the taxpayer's employer, or 80% of the taxable value of the ride of the use of the motor vehicle received from the taxpayer's employer. You remember the last week when we did the, the ride use of the motor vehicle calculations. Okay, and then today we did what's called the travel allowance. Okay, so going down further, it says that the fringe benefit on items such as the medical aid received from the taxpayer's employer and the taxable income referred to exclude the retirement lump sums and severance benefits is the taxable income before the deductions of the qualified retirement fund contributions, qualified for the tax credits, and the bona fide deductions in terms of Section 18A. So I'm glad to say that we'll tackle the bona fide donations in terms of the Section 18A receipt just after this, and then let's have a look at the below point where it says contributions made in the prior year that were not allowed as a deductions in those year will be carried forward to the current year of assessment unless they have been deducted from the retirement fund lump sum or withdrawal benefit was set off against the compulsory benefit. Let's look at the area's contributions, where we simply get added to the current year contributions and treated in the same manner. The limits apply to all the sum of all the requirements made to the pension fund or the provident fund, as well as the RAF, which is the retirement annuity fund. So the slight difference with regards to the contributions made in the prior, which are not allowed as the deductions, they're going to be left as they are. No touch on that one. You just have to motivate to say they were not allowed as deductions in the previous year, so they won't have any impact in the current year. Looking at the area's contributions, which are going to have an impact in the current year. Okay, so this is what happened. You were supposed to make some contributions in the previous year, and you did not. Obviously, they fall within the areas. So in the current year, they're going to be forming part of what's happening in the current year. I hope that makes sense to you. So the remuneration will always be given in the exam. You remember when I said that you're looking at the greater in between your remuneration as well as the taxable amount. So you need to look at which one is the greatest in between two. It's always going to be given in the exam. Okay. Is there any questions from your side? Let me get back to you before I do the last part. I think is the donation. We're going to conclude our class as it is now, and then next week we're going to start off things with our donation towards the public benefit organizations, and then from there we're going to tackle questions, even though I'm going to lead you on how to can follow the steps of the processes in terms of arriving at your conclusions and stuff like that.